everybody, what's going on? This is TwoHeadedFlounder. Today we're going to be looking at a Raikou Malamar deck. Now, to make a long story short, I was playing a mill deck online just to do some challenges, and I came across me playing this deck, and I thought it was a really cool concept, so I went together and made my own version of the deck, not copying. I never really even took a look at the cards in their deck. I just got the general gist of it, and I rolled with it. So this is what I have. Been tweaking it for the last few weeks, playing it, and I don't think it's a top tier deck. I think it's a decent deck, and it has the capability of beating top tier decks if everything goes very well. But yeah, I'd give this like a B. It's a pretty decent deck, and it works how it's supposed to. So let's start things off. Of course, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Raikou. This is the main attacker of the deck. This is really all you ever want to attack with, if possible, but obviously there's going to be situations where you're going to have to do some other stuff. So, lost voltage for an electric and a colorless will do 30 plus 90 more if you have any electric energy in the lost zone. This is very easily done thanks to cards like Lost Blender, but it's also kind of a pain because you got to run a lot of Lost Blender in the deck, and it can clunk things up and just be very messy. So there's some good and bad there. But what we're effectively going to be doing is trying to accelerate energy to this, and also only just using 1 energy to use this attack. And that's the general idea of the deck. And it's going to hit for a lot of damage. It's going to be one-shotting most things that aren't EX and GX, so you don't have to worry about adding damage there. But if they are, we have other tools in the deck to help us hit those numbers. So, of course, we're playing 4 copies of Raikou. Next up, we're going to be playing a 3/3 Malamar line. So, Malamar is in the deck because Psychic Recharge. Once during your turn, you may attach a Psychic Energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. And of course, with the colorless and the attack cost here, we're going to try and manipulate Psychic Energy to help pay for this. And it's going to turn what is usually a pain 2-turn setup Pokemon into a 1-turn setup Pokemon. So of course we're going to be playing a 3/3 line of this. You might be wondering why I'm not playing a 4th Inkay. We actually have Ditto Prism in the deck, so it kind of makes up for the 4th Inkay. As well as we're going to be playing a lot of other stuff in the deck, so getting these back isn't really the worst thing to try and do. And then of course we're playing the Psychic type one with Hypnosis, because just, if we need to stall, we can stall. Never attacking with this, but it's a great Pokemon to have for energy acceleration purposes. And it definitely helps the deck function a lot better. So on to our random techs. Of course, we're going to be playing a copy of Zorora GX. Yes, this card is fantastic. 190 HP on a basic. Thunderclap Zone. Each of your Pokemon that has any electric energy attached to them has no retreat cost. Plasma Fist hits for 160. Of course, we won't be able to use the attack again the following turn, but Guzma up into something that has electric energy attached to it, free retreat, it go back into this hit for another 160. Full Voltage GX is also not the worst GX attack to have in this deck. Attach 5 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon any way you like. We have Pokemon that need a lot of energy attached, so if it's late game and we've discarded a lot of energy, this is a great way to get them back into play and do a lot of cool stuff. Very, very sweet card. Of course, we're going to be playing 1 copy of Lele. Lele is going to help us search out those supporters. We're actually playing Volkner in this deck, so grabbing Volkner as soon as possible is usually a good idea. But if we have one of those dead draw situations, just having a Lele for backup is really nice. So next up, we got Ditto Prism. It's really good. Yes, it'll go to the Lost Zone when it's discarded, but it's going to help this deck function very well. So, Almighty Evolution. Once during your turn, you may put a Stage 1 Pokemon onto this to evolve it. This counts as evolving. It's just a great card to have. Seriously, this is actually going to allow us to evolve into one of our next upcoming techs, as well as getting another Malamar in play if need be. So we're playing a 1/1 line of Garbodor. So people aren't going to be expecting you be playing Garbodor. They're thinking you're playing an electric deck with Raikou with Malamar to help just accelerate energy to it. That's all they're going to get out of it. and they're going to freely play their items, and that's when you get them. You hit them for the solid 200 damage for 1 energy out of nowhere, and you know, you'll have the Ditto sitting there for a while. They'll be like, oh, they're going to wait until a Malamar, they get a Malamar, and then you just hit them with the Garbodor, attach the Psychic Energy, do 200 damage. It's a really cool card to just throw out there, and you take 2 free prizes. Seriously, it's just that good. And of course we're playing this Trubbish because I believe that's the only Trubbish in the format, but Snap Off, I've actually used that pretty successfully in a few games, and it's kind of funny to do. So that's our Pokemon. Moving on to our supporter lineup. Of course, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Cynthia. We don't have any Pokemon in the deck to help us draw new things. There's no Substrika, there's no Zoroark or Guru. So maxing out on supporters is usually a pretty good idea. If you do have the idea of a card to cut for one of those cards, I would definitely suggest playing it. The one problem I know with this deck is it can get very clunky at times. So next up, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Guzma just to max out on the consistency. Also, as I said before, Zorora functions fairly well with this card. And a lot of the Pokemon in the deck actually have a pretty hefty retreat cost at that. So just playing 4 of these is generally a good idea. Next up, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Lily. It's just for the additional draw support. Turn 1, it's okay. Later on in the game, maybe if we can manipulate our hand sides, this will be worth it. But Cynthia is usually what you really want, and you know, that's about all there needs to be said. And for lastly, we're playing 2 copies of Volkner. Search your deck for an item card and an electric energy. So effectively, what we're going to be doing with this card is we're going to play it to grab, of course, the electric energy, but hopefully on turn 1, we'll also be grabbing the Lost Blender with it. So that way we can discard the electric energy as soon as possible, and then we'll be able to draw an additional card. That's not going to be the ideal first turn always, because you might have a very clunked up hand, very bad hand. Maybe you're going to want to be grabbing a Cynthia turn 1 instead, but Volkner is a fantastic card to be playing, and I'm playing 2 of because sometimes you'll prize 1, sometimes you won't be able to get 1. 2 just seems a little bit more consistent, and opening up with it in your hand, this is a greater possibility of doing so. For our stadium, we are playing Thunder Mountain. The attack of your lightning Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, cost 1 electric energy less. So this is effectively the Prism version of Dimension Valley. There we go. Except, you know, they kind of realized Dimension Valley is a little too broken, so why don't we put the little prism symbol, and you can only play 1 of this in your deck. So really this is just a fantastic way to make Raikou attack for just the Psychic Energy. It's great. It also lowers Zorora's attack cost to an electric and a colorless. So that's a 1-turn attack right there. Just a really, really solid stadium card. I am actually playing a few more stadiums, playing 2 copies of Aether Paradise, because Raikou is very easily one-shot by Zoroark with a full bench. This makes it so Zoroark has got a 2-shot on it. That's not very good for Zoroark, because with the potential of the cards we have, we could be one-shotting Zoroarks, and if they're not able to one-shot us, that's really good for us. Not to mention that this effectively gives Zorora about 220 HP, so it's also very not easily one-shot at that point. Just a really cool card to have, and this has saved me more times than it's, you know, clunked up my deck. Alright, moving on to our items. We're going to be playing 4 copies of Ultra Ball because though we have a lot of Psychic in the deck, we want to grab Raikou if possible, and we also really want to grab Zorora and Ditto too. So something like Ultra Ball just seems more fitting than Mysterious Treasure, because this helps us get our main attackers. I think that's a little bit more important sometimes than getting the support guys. We're going to be playing 4 copies of Choice Band. I know this is a very large amount, and people tend to play 3 and below. But the idea of the deck is to do as much damage as possible, as many times as possible. So Raikou will be hitting for 150 on GXs with this, which is really nice, and something like an Electro Power at that point will bring us to 180, a second one will bring us to 210, and ideally we're getting one-shots on a lot of the popular decks in the format, so this is a great way to hit numbers. Also, we're attacking with Raikou as much as possible, so getting out of the discard pile and whatnot, we're going to want as many Choice Band as possible. So next up we have Electro Power, and I know in Tag Team we're going to be get the Charger card that lets you get these back if you flip a coin. And I think that is a really cool card, but I'm not sure how much room in this deck there really is for that, but having more of these would definitely be great, seriously. What you do is you play it during that turn, your electric Pokemon's attack do 30 more damage to your opponent's active. It's really, really good. And, it just helps hit numbers. So, very, very important card. Possibly the most important card in the deck. Lost Blender. We need to get those electric energies in the discard pile. I've already explained it. But put 2 cards from your hand to the Lost Zone. If you do, draw a card. It's draw support, I guess. Once you use it, I would suggest just Ultra Balling the rest away, because a lot of the pieces of this deck are pretty important, and getting rid of them isn't the best idea. So, it's up to you, I guess, but Lost Blender. I personally like to Lost Blender a Lost Blender, because it just makes my life a lot easier, but... Next, we got 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. Either put a Pokemon from your discard pile to your hand, such as the Malamar, so you can get it back into play, or shuffle 3 from your discard pile back into your deck. So if you are down 3 Raikou, grab 3 Raikou. It's just a very good card for helping us get our main attacker back. Again, even though we're playing cards like Aether Paradise, Raikou is very easily one-shot. So we're going to want to get him back as much as possible. Next up, we're playing a copy of Field Blower. This is probably the most expendable card in the deck. Probably you can drop this, put the Oranguru, the random Zoroark, maybe a Zebstrika in the deck. You can use Ditto to evolve into Zebstrika. But sometimes just being able to remove stuff is very nice. And if you are unable to get one of your stadiums to bump a shrine and you don't want your Lele and Zoroark taking damage constantly, Field Blower is nice to have. But just removing like an opponent's Choice Band is pretty nice too. And lastly, for our items, we're playing a copy of Palpad, because just being able to get Cynthia and Guzma back is really just nice. And as I said, there's a problem in the deck with inconsistency with drawing, so Palpad is just a nice card to help us with that. But again, I know what we can do. We can drop a Lost Blender, we can drop a Field Blower, we can insert some cards. But I'm one of those people that's very into making sure I have all the pieces in the deck. So next up, we got 7 copies of Electric Energy. This is very important, obviously. This is going to help us pay for Raikou and Zoroark's attacks. So yes, we are playing 7 copies of this, because it's very important. We're going to lose 1. We are losing 1 with Lost Blender. So we're effectively at 6. And, hopefully over time we'll be able to manipulate some stuff. But, yeah, that's what we got. And lastly, we're playing 4 copies of Psychic Energy. because 3 was a little inconsistent with Malamar. The 4th one definitely helps a lot more, definitely drawing into the Psychic more, which is problematic at times. I can see why you would want to run 3. I was originally running 3, and I was even thinking about bumping the Electric up to an 8th one, but you want to try and discard this as soon as possible so you can use it with Malamar, and just having it is important and great. So 4 copies of that. So that's basically the deck. That's what it does. Not much else to say really about it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's a cool deck. It runs well at times. It definitely gets clunked up at others. But again, just remove a Field Blower and a Lost Blender and put in those cards, and you're probably good to go. I just like to run these cards just in the off chance I actually need them. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, stick around for more. Leave a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.